Welcome to episode 121. How long do I have to keep marketing?
How long do you want to stay in business?
Right. Exactly. This question actually came from someone who approached us about marketing for the first time. And this is a person who is really, really smart. That is his expertise. That's his love. That's his joy. That's, a fabulous thing. But maybe not quite so familiar with the business process and quite so familiar with the sales process and the marketing process. So I totally get where he's coming from, and I have a lot of sympathy for this feeling, this how long is this going to take? How long am I going to have to keep writing checks, for marketing, for advertising, for
Sales.
A new website, for different things, all of this stuff. It seems like it's adding up, and it seems like it just goes on forever, and we're all going to die, right?
Even the largest companies, look at Coke, PepsiCo, Honda, Ford, Chevy, they all market forever.
Right. But I can understand, a lot of things in life are, you set it up, what was the old Ron Popeil commercial for some kind of chicken cooker? You set it and you forget it, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, marketing is not like that. There are some things we can do to make it easier, but quite frankly, this is the bad news, right?
It never ends.
It never ends, and
until you stop desiring to have sales.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you want to keep having customers, and as long as you keep wanting to make sales, and I'm going to put a caveat on here. There are some companies that we know of that require very few customers. For example, they're a business to business, a wholesale type of a situation where they have maybe 4 customers, and that is all they will ever want or need. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that it is kind of high risk, because if any one of their 4 customers goes away, it will take some time to spool up another one if they are not actively marketing, right?
Sure. You take the suppliers to the major auto guys for nuts and bolts that hold mufflers in place. Mm-hmm. They got those 4 or 5. They don't need any more because they're just pumping that stuff out as fast as they can.
They have as much business as they will ever want or need. Mm-hmm. You had a company once that had just one customer, right?
Yes.
And that went really, really well until...
It didn't.
Until it didn't. And that's true of, I think, any business. You can run a business with one customer or with 4 customers or, with some very small number. And the customer life cycle that we're going to talk about in a few minutes is not going to be as obvious to you. And that's great.
Yeah, I had a client that had 7 divisions, and I was taking care of all 7 divisions. So it was like 7 clients, except the paycheck came from the parent company.
Right, and something happened at the parent company.
Yeah, things changed. I was trying to start a company, and I hadn't started actually actively marketing as I should have been, and they opted not to refund, and guess what?
Yeah, to renew your contract, and
I was done. Mm-hmm. It's done.
Exactly. So, if you're in the enviable position of not having to market, that's great, but you might want to think about that in the sense of, are you putting all of your eggs in one basket, and could you reduce your risk by having an active customer life cycle, right?
Of course.
Okay.
And it's a good thing to have a backlog. A
backlog, exactly, as long as you manage it appropriately.
Of course.
Right.
That's always a good thing.
Okay. So this is Leonardo da Vinci's Perpetual motion machine design, right? It is a cool thing. What it does is it basically manages energy so that as gravity happens in one direction, it compensates for that in the other direction. So as this wheel turns and the little balls roll back and forth, and if you're just listening to this audio, you're just going to have to visualize a perpetual motion machine. I'm sure you've seen something like this in the past.
And what he came to determine was, due to friction, air friction, and so forth, they would eventually slow down and stop.
Right. So you can reduce the amount of energy needed to keep this spinning if, as you perfect it and as you reduce friction, as you, lubricate that inside hub, as you change the weights of these wheels, there's lots of things that you can do, but it's not quite perfect.
No, in fact, if you take this thing in space and start it moving, because
there's
friction,
no gravity.
Well, there's no gravity, but there's no friction. Well, there is, but it's so minuscule as to be noticeable.
Right.
But you have the friction of each of the balls rolling down And so ultimately it too will stop. It just may take it years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So this is kind of the image that we like to use for a marketing cycle or a customer life cycle, because the better we can make this, we're striving for perfection, knowing that we will never get there because we live in an imperfect world with
pretty much
gravity and moving parts and other kinds of things that are beyond our control. You take that image and you look at this. This is a customer life cycle where you have the hubs, or the spokes on the hub here are prospecting, building credibility, closing sales, the purchase process, the customer experience, retention and loyalty, word of mouth, and referrals. And then it starts over, right? And this might be with the same customer who makes a second purchase.
Yeah, and just because you have a customer does not mean that they think you're credible, because humans forget.
Well, and your competitors are marketing to them.
That's right.
All the time. You have to assume they are. So you have to resell to the same customer, which takes a lower amount of energy,
but you still have to do it
to get the same customer over and over again. But this cycle occurs even if it's just additional sales to the same customer, or with referrals, to other customers, or with new customers altogether, right?
Yep.
Same cycle, just different amount of energy
Absolutely.
and different points of the compass here. All right, we talked about this slide last week.
Yes, but this is one that needs to be talked about pretty much all the time.
Exactly.
Because people ignore it, forget it, don't believe it.
Mm-hmm. Underestimate it.
Whatever. The numbers may be different in any given situation, but the fact of the matter is 5th to 12th contact for most of the sales are made.
Exactly. And, we actually think it's more like the 12th to 20th in the aviation industry for most large and or complex sales.
As a matter of fact, I got into a discussion with a salesperson who came out to the office to sell us drapes.
Mm-hmm. I remember this. And you shared this with her, right?
Yeah, and I shared this with her, and she said, "Oh, no." And I said, "Really? And how many times have you talked to us? And we haven't bought yet. You're still measuring."
Right.
And I enumerated them for us, and we were already up to 6 or 7.
Yeah. And that was between us going to her place of business, us picking the fabric, us making a different decision, us changing the date, and we weren't trying to be a pain in the neck.
No, it was just, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And she got all upset
and
decided that rather than make the sale, she'd bow out. So she did, and we... it's real easy. You go to the competitor, and they took care of it, and it was done like within a week.
Right. Not that you're hard to get along with or anything, but,
What are you trying to say? Just come right out and say it.
Well, I think she was, anyway, it's a long story, but the point is, most people don't think through the amount of time and energy it takes to make a sale.
They don't.
And are not willing to put that time and energy into it. Or they're insulted on both sides that it should take this long, because they think, well, I'm a smart consumer. I don't take that much convincing. I either want the thing or I don't. But life gets in the way. Things get busy. There's a lot of decision points often for a larger or complex transaction. And on the salesperson side, you think, well, I'm better than that. I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to beat these statistics. But you really have to be willing to take the time and energy, or you're going to turn people off, right?
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, we needed to replace the water softener for the office. And I already knew which one I wanted. And I talked to the guy at a trade show and told him, not yet. And I said, would you just call me next month? And then I told him that for like 8 or 9 months before we said, yes, can you come out here and do that? Just tell me when you can be here.
Right. Let's just make an appointment. Get it done.
Travel, budgets, just so much stuff gets in the way. And that was just a simple thing.
Yeah, and you really wanted it, and you knew which one you wanted, and it was just a matter of getting the time, the opportunity, the basement, whatever, together at the same time in the same place. So crazy stuff. But I think a lot of times when salespeople screw up, it's because they try to rush this, right?
Probably.
Yeah. And, that's kind of what makes salespeople seem pushy and what turns people off. So if you've got a good holding pattern, where people are not going to get away, you're going to be contacting them in multiple ways. You're going to be staying top of mind with them through different media, and we talked about this last week. So, if you want to listen to last week's episode to learn more about this, this is emails, ebooks, social media contacts, and newsletters as well as phone calls. So it's not just a phone call every week, which drives people crazy, right?
Yep.
So why is it so hard? Part of the reason is because also of moving targets. And in the aviation industry, we've got a lot of different things that are moving all the time. There's prices of aircraft, prices of gas, all of which cause all kinds of crazy things to happen in the industry.
Yeah, always changing.
Right. Different regulations that change.
M&A activity, turnover, good night alive.
Yeah. Different regulations. The tax regulations just changed, which changed everything for brokers and tax consultants, things like that. Mergers and acquisitions of some of the major companies, which changes who they do business with. All kinds of things like that.
The cost of money is going up.
Cost of money is going up.
I mean, everything is changing, and always does.
Turnover at some of the places that you work with. There are some fairly large clients that we've had in the past where they've had the person that is our primary contact at that company goes away. And if we don't have deep and wide feelers in that company, it's likely that they would use that opportunity to go with a different marketing solution, or whatever. That happens to a lot of people if they don't actively market to their current customers.
That's right.
Okay. Marketing technology. You've probably read some of the things that are changing with Google, some of the things that are changing with Facebook. Different things work better or worse than they did in the past. So some things that you could do with Google Analytics a year ago that would be really cost effective are not cost effective now.
Exactly.
And vice versa. Magazines shrinking, disappearing, smaller printed magazines and putting more materials online. That changes the advertising that's available to purchase.
Trade show expenses going up, and they change the rules.
Yes, they do sometimes. A lot of the shows that were really affordable 3 or 4 years ago are not so affordable now. The rent's gone up.
Yeah, and if you've been going to the same trade show for the last 10 years, how do you can't not go.
Well, you can not go.
Unless it's really close.
But it is a tough decision in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Because there is a cost to not going as well.
You bet.
But, if a trade show 5 years ago, the booth rent was such that you could make a good return on investment with 3 or 4 sales, now you have to make 10 or 12 sales to get that return on investment, then, that's a tough decision you might have to make.
Yep.
And there are some ways you can soften that blow or, make that up in other ways, but that is a tough decision. Also, demographics change. Some of our customers, that come to us say, a lot of our clients are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I'm kind of concerned that they may be leaving the market or retiring or, doing whatever and stuff like that. And I need to market to their kids or I need to market to their successors. And their successors are not like them.
That's
so
right.
I need to change the way that I market. So as demographics change, we also need to adjust our marketing mix, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so how do we do that? We go back to that perpetual motion machine, right? So
with great skill and vigor.
Exactly. So let's say that you're starting from scratch, or let's say that you have to outsource this whole thing because you want to spend all of your time and all of your energy and all of your people time and energy on producing great product and delivering a great experience, right? In which case, we do have a solution for that, and that is our VIP marketing services, right?
Of course.
And this is what we call our concierge service. We do most things for you. We do need to coordinate with you to make sure that everything is in sync with your priorities and your values and your wants and needs and things like that. But we basically become your marketing department, and we do that for a lot of companies that do this very successfully, and then they can focus on their customers and on delivering great experiences.
And if you're the VP or VIP of marketing, all we want to do is make you look like you know what the hell you're doing.
Exactly, right. So, you may be in a different situation where you need to start the ball rolling. You've got a pretty good process for the whole rest of this. Once you get hold of somebody or once they get hold of you, everything seems to run smoothly, but maybe you're just not getting enough leads coming in that door the first time, right?
Yep.
So you need some help with that prospecting, which is kind of the first push on that wheel, right? And if that's the case, we do have a product for that called our lead generator. Everything else is running fine. All you need to do is get people to contact you, ideally qualified leads that you have a little bit of information about, and we have a method for making that happen using online means and offline, so that works really, really well. So that's another option that's available for you. What if you need everything done, or you're not really sure what needs to be done, but you don't have a huge budget?
Yep. No, we have a laboratory for that.
Exactly. And why we call it a laboratory is because we're always improving and experimenting because of that moving target. So we're always perfecting that marketing life cycle. So this is a do-it-yourself program. We spend an hour a month with you figuring out what your number one priorities are. And
then you go forth and do.
Exactly. And we do some of it with you, but most of it you're doing yourself. And we focus on one specific marketing task each month. So for January, we focused on prospecting. February, building credibility and closing sales. March, we're focusing on referrals and other things. So that way, by the end of the year, you have worked on 12 different tasks to keep that cycle running smoothly.
Right.
Right? Okay, so that's a really good way to make it work without spending a whole lot of money but getting some professional expertise. So what if you need just one specific thing? Maybe you're not getting enough retention from the people that you already have. A competitor is stealing your customers, heaven forbid. So that might be something where we can do a consultation and decide, what you need to stay in contact with your customers using a tool like a newsletter or a tip of the week or, something like that, some kind of an educational tool.
Or a CRM.
Or a better CRM, a better process. Something needs to be done with that. Maybe you have a problem in closing sales. So, you're getting lots of leads and, you think you're doing a pretty good job of building credibility and so on, but they just never, ever close or take too long to close. So that might be something where we can work on sales presentations, get sales skills, urgency, your offers, other things like that, where we can help you with that. Maybe you're not getting enough referrals from your existing customers. So we can put a process in place where they get sent a survey after a purchase and, get asked a bunch of questions. And one of them is, would you recommend us to other people, And then, following up with them and making sure that those referrals get taken care of and are handled really gracefully and so on. So those are some different problems that we can resolve using different a la carte marketing services, right?
Of course.
Okay. So if your customer lifecycle is running just absolutely fabulous but has one spoke loose, that's something that we can help with as well. Maybe you need, just a website. Maybe it's time for a brand refresh. Maybe you need some postcards sent about a new product or, something like that. So if that's the case, we can do, the a la carte services, right?
Of course.
Which brings to mind another question that we were asked, and that is, how often should I redo my website? And the answer is probably about every 3 years or so, depending on the nature of your business, what your competitors are doing, how you look, how current it was at that time, all of those things.
And
so back to the question, how long is this going to take? I don't want to make light of this, but I am kind of making light of this. It's
well,
I totally have sympathy with this because this is not somebody who's in love with marketing like we are. This is somebody that just wants to get it over with, and we do have some options to take care of it for you. So that's something that we can do for you.
Of course.
So back to our perpetual motion machine. If you think about this and you think about the rotation speed of this is another factor that's specific to aviation. If you don't get going fast enough, there is a risk, and this is in every business as well. If you don't put enough effort into your marketing, you may not be acquiring customers fast enough to keep your business afloat. And that's the same thing as running off the end of an aircraft carrier without having the speed to generate lift.
Yeah, if you're not seeing this and listening to audio, you should go take a look at this. This is a really cool picture.
Right.
I don't know how somebody got it based on the location of the camera and the location of the airplane, but it's cool.
Absolutely. F-18 coming off the end of an aircraft carrier it's got two wheels on and one wheel off. So it's obviously in the middle of that process, and obviously he's got rotation speed or he wouldn't be here, but it looks really precarious. And a lot of businesses are in a really precarious position because they are just not investing enough to get that rotation speed, and so then it takes longer. They run out of runway. What you don't want to do is just taxi around at just below rotation speed, burning gas, and just writing checks for marketing, different random acts of marketing every month, and never getting up to the speed where you have
exactly.
enough business to sustain, sustain
because
your
then
expenses.
you're just throwing good money after bad.
Absolutely. So customer life cycle, very, very important. Think about yours. If you were to put some emphasis on one, if there was a point at which you could push this circle and make it go faster or better, what would that be? Or do you need the whole circle built from scratch?
Exactly.
If you've already got it running, what are the places that it may need some love?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we'd be happy to talk with you about that, or about anything having to do with sales or marketing or anything else. There's a gold Let's Talk button on the left-hand side of our website, and we do free 30-minute consultations about marketing, and we'd love to talk to you about your customer life cycle and maybe where it could use a boost, right?
Mm-hmm.
One more thing to maybe make you feel a little bit better about all this. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
And if you can't see, this is a picture of the, quote, easy button.
Yeah, that Staples easy button that they used in their commercials for a long time, which I think is a fantastic analogy. A lot of people are looking for the easy button, but in marketing, there really isn't one. It really amounts to the amount of care and effort that you put into your customers, attracting them, keeping them, getting them again. So you have to do it. You might as well love it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Have a great day.